Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. So since Prophecy is coming out for Rite of the Nine on Tuesday, I'm recording this Sunday night to come out Monday afternoon here. We're just going to take a look at the god rolls for some of these Prophecy weapons, because there are some interesting rolls here. This is the dungeon that I've been waiting the most for. Of course they had to put it last, but I guess it'll be worth the wait. Some of these weapons are actually pretty interesting here, so let's just get straight into it. Let's start with the Judgment here. Now, the Judgment is going to have some pretty heavy competition in its slot. It is a stasis primary, so you can use those stasis synergistic mods and builds, so that's kind of good. That's not just like a random like kinetic weapon. But this is going to be a PvP centric video, so really we're going to see what can this thing do differently than things like Rose, Ostringer, some of those other hand cannons that are pretty popular in that slot. That'd be, direct competition. So we're going to start with something main here. I think Slide Shot is going to be the best perk for this 140 hand cannon. This is almost not negotiable. There's a couple other good perks here. I would definitely stay away from Rapid Hit. It's definitely gotten power cut over the years. Like, in a vacuum, it's definitely strong. You get the extra stability and reload speed, but it's kind of just been power cut by newer perks like Lone Wolf, which gives you a nice little aim assist bump, airborne effectiveness bump, stuff like that, or Keep Away, which just gives more range and reload. But I think the ease of use of Slide Shot, being able to slide and reload, is just too much to pass up. Not to mention it also synergizes well with the Origin trait Crossing Over. So when this weapon is in the top half of the magazine, it gets increased range and handling. I believe it's a plus 10 bonus to range and handling, so Slide Shot being able to keep your mag near full a lot of the time is going to help keep this range and handling buff up a lot of the time. So this is a really nice synergistic combo between Slide Shot and Crossing Over here. So definitely would recommend Slide Shot here. Now in this right column, there's actually a couple interesting perks. You got Precision Instrument here if you want some more range and some more damage to clean up low health targets, deal with healing rifts, overshield, all that nonsense. Definitely a nice perk again. On 140s, because again, it does buff the range indirectly by buffing damage. So nice perk here. Then we got Opening Shot, just some more range and accuracy. Always a solid perk. But I think the winner and the thing that's going to make this thing the most unique is going to be Timed Payload. Enhanced Timed Payload also kind of nice because you get 5 stability here. But what this thing is really going to do is it's basically explosive payload, but there's a delay on the explosion. So what this is really going to do is make the flinch that this hand cannon gives out absolutely ridiculous. So you get flinched once on the initial shot, and you get flinched a second time when the explosion lands. So this really can mess with people's like shot cadence and rhythm, making it really easy to disrupt their shots that you're shooting at. So I like this Slide Shot time payload combo here. I think this is going to be the most unique role of the Judgment. If you're going to go for a Judgment, and you're going to use it over like a Rose or something, you're going to want something a little bit different. So I would definitely go with either Time Payload or Precision Instrument. I would definitely want Time Payload the most, just because it's the most interesting and unique combo. Obviously, we're going to go with Accurized Rounds. 140s really need that range, so we're going to take the plus 10 range from Accurized Rounds so we can, fight against some of the Pulse Rifles. The one thing with this weapon here, like some other hand cannons like Eyes Luna, Dire Promise, is that it comes with sights instead of barrels. So some of these, not a lot of these actually give range, or if they do, it's like usually like a steep drop off like here. Let me find the one that's right here. So yeah, this one here. So if you want a range boost, you have to give up handling and stability. So that's kind of a little negative there. I think the best sight is either Fast Draw, which gives you 15 handling, 5 stability, or Steady Hand, which gives a 10 handling and 10 stability bonus. It also gives aim assist here. So it does say that the base aim assist is 75, but all the sights give plus 5. That's going to be that 80 aim assist mark, which is pretty solid. So I think we're actually going to go with Steady Hand sight here, just so we have a more balanced stat profile. We've got 64 range, 60 stability, and 68 handling, which is not bad. It is an Adept weapon, so you can go with range or stability or whatever you want, but I think the best mod here is going to be Ballistic, so we can get a little bit more balance. Now, again, since we have Crossing Over, the stats are going to be a little bit better than what it shows right here. So near the top of the mag, you're going to be starting at 78 handling and then slowly dropping down as you get towards the bottom half. When you're in the bottom half of the magazine, you actually get a little bit of a damage boost. I'm not quite sure if this is going to help you reach any break points in terms of like landing body shots versus headshots, but it is, I guess, a little bit nice having a little bit damage bonus when you run out of the range and handling boost. But again, we have slide shot keeping the origin trait up, so this will be less of a factor. So most of the time, you're going to have that handling and range boost. So I would definitely recommend something like this. And again, at top of mag, you'll start with like around 80 range. Handling, you'll be around 78. So actually, this thing's stat profile is going to be kind of crazy, as well as the increased flinch time payload. This personally, I think would be my god roll for the Judgment, but we'll see if I get any luck. My luck with farming some of these Rite of the 9 weapons has not been the greatest, but I think this is what I'd go for ideally on the Judgment. So let's go with the next weapon here. We've got the Adept Prosecutor. Now these 450 autos have been buffed in terms of the forgiveness. If we just look at their time to kill here, so tier 10 to tier 7 resilience, 7 crits and it's a kill. Actually, it's pretty hard to come by unless you're going against a Titan, but I feel like I've been seeing less and less Titans into like today's PvP meta. I feel like most people are still on those Invis Hunters or like a Dawnblade Warlock, and typically like they don't want to put their stat points in resilience, so most of the time you're going to be looking at this time to kill profile where it's 6 crits and 1 body shot. So we kind of want to make that as easy to land as possible here. So obviously in this right column, we can go with 2 things here. We can either go with target lock, which is kind of nice because it does make that time to kill a little bit more consistent and buffing that resilience gate. So even up to tier 10, you can go 6 crits and 1 body shot. So that's not bad. And then 5 crits, 2 bodies for tier 5 and under. Or you could go with something like tap the trigger, which is going to buff your stability by 40 and decrease your recoil and decrease your accuracy cone. I think personally for me, I would go for tap the trigger just to make the shots a little bit easier to land. Although if you're insane with auto rifles and your tracking is perfect, I think target lock is a little bit better. Because if you're more consistent with your aim, then you're going to have a little bit buffed time to kill with target lock. Or on time, not buff time to kill, but I guess a little bit buff forgiveness. But both these perks are pretty strong. I think personally, me, I'd go with tap the trigger. If you want a damage perk option, you can go with something like Onslaught, where you get increased fire rate. But I've been kind of soured on Onslaught lately, just because the time that Onslaught is active is not very long. So you really have to go from your first kill to the next duel in a really, really fast way. So I think personally, I either go tap the trigger or target lock here. Now in this second column, I think there's a couple, really only 2 good options. I'd either go with Zen Moment to buff stability and like a visual recoil, or you can go with Keep Away to get that nice little range bonus and reload bonus. I think if you're going with tap the trigger, you may not need Zen Moment as well as tap the trigger, and so you can spec more into range, knowing you got a little bit of stability bump here. So I'd probably go, if you're going to tap the trigger, maybe you go with Keep Away as a nice little combo, and maybe if you want target lock, you can go with Zen Moment to help, buff that stability so you can hit that perfect target lock beam. So I think you'd either want Keep Away, tap the trigger, or you'd want Zen Moment and target lock. Either combination of those I think would be pretty strong. Now, I'm just going to go with Keep Away, tap the trigger because that's what I'm going to personally use. Let's go with Ricochet rounds here as well, so you can get increased stability and range. Just a really solid perk overall. Now in this column, you can either go with 2 things. When you have Keep Away, you can spec into range with a range master as well. You have 87 range. We can give it, let's see, maybe even Adept range, 97. So this leaves you with an interesting choice in the barrel options. This thing's base recoil direction is only 69, so it's going to have a strong pull to the left here. But if you give it something like Arrowhead Break, gives it a nice 30 recoil direction buff. It also gives you a nice little 10 handling bonus, and this weapon's handling is not the most exceptional. So I think this could be a pretty ideal barrel, but let's say you're going with maybe a Zen Moment roll and like target lock. You don't have quite as much range with out Keep Away. Maybe you could go with something like Extended Barrel. Now you do take a hit to the handling, but you do get a little recoil direction bump and a range buff as well. So I think personally, I would just go with a Arrowhead Break roll just to get the nice handling and just a bigger recoil direction boost. just to make the weapon feel as consistent as possible. This is probably what I would go for. You'd have 97 range with keep away. When tap the triggers up, you have 99 stability. Then you also have almost perfect recoil direction. So this thing is going to be super, super consistent, as well as, a really fast reload with 80 reload speed from keep away. So I think me personally, this is what I'd go with on prosecutor, but I'm not like the biggest fan of auto rifles. So if any of you guys have like more experience with these autos, do feel free to leave your opinions down in the comment section below. But I think this is what I'd go for in terms of the prosecutor Adept. Now let's move on to the next weapon. This is the sudden death shotgun here. This thing already, unfortunately, is starting with a pretty big disadvantage, and that's the fact that it is an aggressive frame shotgun. So the stats of this weapon are going to have to be absolutely ridiculous to compete with a precision frame shotgun. Really the only aggressive frame shotgun that's out right now that I think is even like somewhat viable is really the Found Verdict, and maybe conditional too, but conditional really just has that like exotic like stasis shot, so it's not really like an aggressive frame, even though it like has the same damage profile. But Found Verdict is probably the best aggressive frame just because its stats are so ginormous, and that's really the problem with this weapon here. As you can see, the base stats of this thing are really, really low, so you're not going to have like the craziest stat package for this aggressive frame shotgun, but let's just see what we can do here. So obviously we're going to take crossing over. Now, this thing's magazine is 5, so it's basically never going to have the increased range and handling boost from being in the top half of the magazine. So most of the time you're going to get a little bit of a damage boost, which I guess is kind of nice. 1.5 to 3% damage is not like the worst ever. I mean, maybe that helps your one-hit kill distance a tiny bit in some situations, but not the biggest deal. I think honestly, if you could get that range boost and handling boost, it'd be a little bit better, but most of the time, again, you're going to be stuck with the damage boost instead. On this right column, there's really only 2 options. You can either go with opening shot to make your one shot a little bit more consistent. You get a little bit of an aim assist and range boost, as well as an accuracy cone decrease. So this would make the one shot a little bit more consistent. But I think on this weapon, since the stats are so low, you really would want the stats from closing time, I think, the most, especially in the handling department. What is this thing without closing time? 24 base handling. So really you're going to need all the help you can get. It also does give range bonus and handling multiplier. So I think closing time is probably the best perk to go for on the sudden death here. And again, most of the time you're going to be at like the max effect. So you're going to either be like 1 or 2 shots. Every time you spawn in, you're going to have 1. So this is what you're really going to be looking at. So at base now, or not at base, with closing time up and nothing else, you've got 49 handling, 34 range. Let's see if we can work that up a little bit more. Obviously in this left column, because the stats are so low, I really would stay away from stuff like slide shot or discord. I mean, all these rest of these perks, except for like slide shot and discord, are PvE perks. So really, threat detector is going to be the biggest win. When we enhance it, it doesn't show it on the thing, but it actually is going to give a 28 handling boost when you're near one person, which is going to be most of the time. So the handling is going to be a little bit better when you have threat detector and closing time. This is going to be a little bit more consistent in terms of being able to switch to your shotgun, but the range, again, is still pretty low, so let's see what we can do in that department. We're going to go with accurized rounds, give it some more range. In this barrel column, I would either go with probably barrel shroud or corkscrew, because they give the most balance. Corkscrew just gives the nice little handling boost, make it a little faster. Or you could go with corkscrew rifling to, get a little bit more balance and get some more range as well. So I'd recommend either a barrel shroud or corkscrew. You can go small bore here for a little bit more range, but I think missing out on the handling is a pretty big miss. So I would definitely go with either corkscrew or barrel shroud. Let's go with barrel shroud right now to max out the handling. Let's see. And then masterwork. Really here, you could go with either a range or handling masterwork. Now, when you're competing with other shotguns and energy slot, you're really going to be competing against Prophet of Doom. Oh, sorry about that. So that shotgun's going to pull out significantly faster than you just because it has more base handling as well as the same combination of perks. So maybe you would want a handling master to be able to match that. in terms of handling speed. 94 handling with an animation scaler here and an animation scaler here is pretty fast for a shotgun. But then you're kind of stuck at that 47 range, so you're gonna get outmapped either way. Mods here, you could either go with, I'd probably go with Adept range. You do have the two animation scalers here, so you maybe don't need something like quick access sling to buff it again. So I'd probably go with the range, Adept range here to buff the consistency of the shotgun one shot. But this is probably what I'd go for here, guys. Honestly, the shotgun is not super special. The base stats are just too low. And again, it's an aggressive frame. So until like shotguns get like a rework or something, precision frames are 99% of the times going to be the best option. So really, this is kind of like, if you get a nice roll of this thing, it could be kind of fun to use, but this is definitely not like an elite meta shotgun here. Now, if we go with this pulse rifle, this is actually one of the weapons I'm most excited for. I expect maybe in like a following nerf or patch, they'd nerf the lightweight frames. The 450 RPM pulse rifle, so maybe these 340s could come back in the meta. They were nerfed a little bit in terms of their range, but they still have that 2-tap time to kill, which is, or 2 burst time to kill, which is lightning fast at 0.67. So you can really get some good mileage out of these 3 burst or heavy burst pulse rifles if you get a nice roll. This thing does also have some nice perks. Again, we have that crossing over origin trait for more range handling. So nice little boost right there. In this right column, there's a couple good perks. Obviously, Head Seeker to start, really, really nice. You can buff the time to kill a little, or maybe it doesn't actually affect it. D2 Foundry isn't showing that it affects the forgiveness on anything, but that's a bug on the website. I'm pretty sure this thing allows you to get like an extra body shot or 2 in there. So Head Seeker, not a horrible perk. Closing time, I'd definitely stay away from. This is more of a special weapon perk because it's harder to get down to that lower end of the magazine for these primary weapons. You can go with something like Desperado. You can shoot a little faster with a precision kill. This thing can be really nice. And then, yeah, that'll be pretty good. And then maybe on this left column here, there's a couple of good perks. You can go with Lone Wolf to get some more aim assist and ADS speed. Make this weapon feel a little more sticky. You go with Keep Away to buff the range and reload. It's kind of nice because, again, these were nerfed in terms of range a couple patches ago. So Keep Away is also a nice option. Rapid Hit is always good on pulses, but I think Rapid Hit, again, is a little bit power corrupted compared to the other perks. Or you can go with something like Slice. Now on a build, I think a build that could take the most advantage of this would be like an Invis Hunter, because you can get those dodges up pretty consistently, and every time you dodge, you can sever people with the weapon. So you can have something like Enhanced Slice, maybe with like Radiant Dance Machines, where you get dodge cooldown after you kill people. You have Slice up a little bit more regularly. I think this could be a pretty strong pulse. So I would definitely go with either like Slice, Lone Wolf, or Keep Away, with either Head Seeker or Desperado. But I think we're going to go with Slice because, it's kind of the most interesting perk. It is a strand weapon, so we can kind of take advantage of that a little bit. Then we can go Ricochet rounds again. Kind of boring, but it is really just the best perk in this column and get some extra stability and range. Now in this right or left barrel column here, again, because the recoil direction is super low, we need to make sure it's really easy to hit shots with this thing, because missing a burst or missing that optimal time to kill with these pulses is pretty punishing. Missing that 0.67 TTK, all of a sudden you're in that like 1 second around TTK, which is not the greatest. So I would definitely go with something like Arrowhead Break here, buff the lower handling, and then get that nice recoil direction bonus. Masterwork wise, you can really go with anything you want, I think, except for reload speed. Stability, nice, because we get that extra layer of forgiveness. Handling is already kind of low. I mean, you do get some handling from crossing over, but it's not the greatest amount of handling. Or you go range to combat the range nerf that happened a little bit ago. These also do have some interesting new mods, I guess. I've never actually seen these. Armaments of Resolve. So I guess this thing could be pretty strong. This would give aim assist and recoil direction here. That could be pretty good, given that maxing out the recoil direction and buffing the aim assist. And then we can maybe go with ballistics, buffing range and stability. We could go with tactical, buffing the lower reload and handling. Even this higher zoom mod, buffing the images at range. But I think we're just going to keep it nice and simple and just go with ballistics here. So it's a pretty solid roll. But getting that slice utility as well as headseeker, nice little 2-burst potential, high stats around the board. But yeah, guys, that's really my opinions on these Prophecy, Rite of the Nine God rolls. I think the one I'm most excited for is either Judgment or Relentless, but Prosecutor is also really good. Sudden Death, not so much, but actually a lot of good hitters PvP from this dungeon. But thank you guys for watching the video, and I'll catch you guys next time.